Philipp von Hilgers. Yeah, he will be here on stage. I'll already introduce him to you. He's currently a VP Enterprise Sales for DoubleVerify. You have been the co-founder of Meetrics GmbH as well. You have a background in media science, postdoctoral fellow in Harvard you have been, and also a visiting scholar at MIT, so many things. And yeah, we have a long business relation with you. You have been consulting iSquare as well in the past. And yeah, please welcome Philipp with your talk, Ads with High Impact and Low Carbon Footprint.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yes, so it's a pleasure to be here at the Memex, not first time, but first time on stage. Otherwise, it was always a pleasure to either work with iSquare, with my former company, Meetrics, or even now with DoubleVerify. It's really great that we are continuing working together. I will take a totally different angle here now, looking on meaningful attention. So bear a bit with me. Probably one of the later slides hopefully make it more clear how I came back to the meaningful attention. But it was also a very lucky incident that we stopped with a commercial about electrical vehicle from WV, because the way how I see now meaningful attention is a bit like an electrical motor compared to a combustion motor. It's not only that we won't have as much carbon emissions coming out of an electrical motor, but an electrical motor is also highly more efficient or effective. All the energy which goes into the motor really makes you drive forward up to 70% or something like that. Is really driving you forward. If you compare that to a combustion engine, it's only 30% really of the energy which goes into the combustion engine really will help you going from A to B, and the rest is heat. And with advertising, it's a bit probably that we are still hanging here with a concept where we are not afraid to really to create a lot of opportunities for come in contact with advertising. But given the fact that there are planetary boundaries, it's now important to see that we find our much more effective engine, advertising engine, with much lower waste. And DoubleVerify is doing it on a daily basis by providing solutions to see how we can help our clients, large advertisers, agencies, and so on, to distribute the advertise in a much more effective way. So if you already historically have seen that there are some pages, web pages, which won't help your brand, then it's not a good idea to deliver another 1,000, another 100,000 ad impression to those websites. Probably they are not fitting to your ad, or there are even bad play actors in our industry who are gaming the advertisers in the sense that there is no consumer in front of a screen. There are bots and so on who are pretending traffic. What I learned from today, there is so much research going into making advertising much more effective. And that also is very helpful for DoubleVerify, because working with iSquares and working on this topic of attention, we can then help to place ads in a much more effective way. Okay, now you can say you are talking here about decarbonization and things needs to be handled in a much lower resource with a much lower carbon footprint, and we need to see that it's done in a much environmental better way. But isn't it leading to a lot of more consumption? So okay, probably carbon footprint goes down with advertising, but still advertising is also just the whole idea is that people buy stuff and buy products. But I think we also need to see there is such a large transformation going on now with new cars, which are conceptually very different. And who else than marketeers and advertising can help to make this transition? So there are so many new products which hopefully will be picked up by mass markets. Otherwise, we have hardly any good way how we could really help to get rid of products which are still producing too high carbon emissions. Okay, have one of you seen the most recent ad from Apple, where Tim Cook get visited by Mother Nature? So a great actor, have a look on it. It's comparable to other great Apple advertisements like 1984 or Think Different. And there you get a feeling how a brand which is not, it's not particular a brand which we will associate with purpose-driven kind of marketing, but they see that highly relevant, that they create a great advertising. Mother Nature comes to their headquarters and asks for the progress in terms of higher environmental standards. The actor is great here who plays Mother Nature, but also Tim Cook as the CEO is also a great actor, I have to say, because he needs to look her into her eyes. I don't want to leak too much. But what you can see is advertisers now, more and more, whatever products they are promoting, they need to take some kind of stand if it comes to environmental progress and decarbonization. This is true for Apple, it's true for even for Sparkasse here in Germany. They're referring to their efforts to make private financing much more environmental friendly, or telecom and so on. I'm not speaking about the products, so that's the one thing. So my background is advertising and the whole ad tech industry trying to distribute the ads. Here it's somehow the risk for the advertisers that they already feel sometimes quite panicking, as like if Mother Nature checks in your next meeting and asking everybody about the progress, they are panicking that probably consumers get it for good reasons wrong and see that it's probably only greenwashing and so on. But of course, also what can come across is that the way how they advertise is also more and more being questioned. So if you open your letterbox and a lot of advertising drops out, a lot of paper, it goes directly in the waste, you don't really feel very pretty about whoever tries here to get you with their advertisement. Just the way how much waste you can see is produced around advertising. And it's often not seen that also if you advertise in a digital way, that this also comes with a large carbon footprint. You could say, okay, not so much resources are needed to do this advertisement. It's bit and bytes, and this can be done globally and so on. But if we look deeper into it, we will see the numbers speak a totally different language. So aviation as an industry produce much less carbon emissions than the whole digital ecosystem. Of course, the whole digital ecosystem is not only advertising, but a good part of the digital ecosystem is advertising. It's mostly more than 10%, and as this carbon emissions are increasingly fastly, it will be more and more. So we have a little problem here that even if we are using digital means to do advertising, this that this causes a lot of carbon emissions. And what also is probably not seen so often already, we can see that carbon emissions have a price tag. For the aviation industry, it's quite easy. If you take the passengers from a flight within Europe from A to B, they immediately need to buy certificates, and it's not a compensation on a very low level. No, it's a trading system in Europe, and every ton of carbon emission already peaked up to more than 100 euros. So there is a price tag on the carbon emissions produced by this industry. With other companies like ours, the European Union take a different approach. We need to report on it. It's just started, so you probably have not heard about it, but it will become more and more our daily practice that whenever we use any kind of service, we need to know how much carbon emission production is related to whatever service we are using. So there is a corporate sustainability reporting directive, which just came into power this year, and larger companies are the first who now need to obligationally need to report in very new standards. And what the trick is it's not only that you are reporting on your own resources, the assets you are buying. So if you have a cars within your company, you can make you can say, okay, let's take electrical vehicles, whatever. So that is scope 3, that's scope 1. But what becomes now interesting is that you are also obligated to report on services you are using from third party. So if you have an advertiser and you go to ProSieben, or you work with I2, or if you work with DoubleVerify, you would need then to ask your third-party services companies, so what is your footprint, because we need to report on that. And now, bringing it back to the digital advertising, if you are running a campaign, this is not really a high number, so 2 million ad impressions, that's only a portion of a usual branding campaign. Branding campaign goes up into the 50 million ad impressions, so this is only a fraction. But if we just take 2 million of this ad impression, we know now from deeper research that this equals 1 ton of carbon emissions and equal gases. And 1 ton, that's again a flight from London to Boston and back for 1 passenger, or a flight from Madrid to Helsinki and back. So looking from the perspective of a company, you would need to come up with new routes. If it comes to business trips, is it possible to take the train within Germany and so on? But then you will also hear back from your marketing division that they're also producing these high numbers of carbon emissions. And then it's up to you how to mitigate this kind of emissions, because you will report on it. It needs to be done openly, and consumers and non-profit organizations can look into it and get an understanding how really sustainable your business is or not. And you might now question where this high carbon emissions come from. If we would only talk about placing an ad on a website and somebody takes its smartphone or desktop or netbook or whatever device and looks up this website, then it would not be this high number. It's only 40% produced by the servers who are providing the content, and also then the ad servers who are adding the ads to the content, and then the devices of the consumers. So if you sum up these emissions, it's only 40%, and 60% is caused even before this moment a user comes to a website, because in real time, a lot of marketing goes on, And there's a lot of attention on a user just in the moment opening a website, because global advertisers, regional advertisers, they all are keen to serve ads to these users. And there are trading desks and auction models to see which kind of advertisers finally gets this ad slot. And it's really hundreds of servers who are involved in serving these ad slot in the back of whatever the user is seeing in front of the screen. So just take this image that if you are a consumer and you are surfing in the net web and you are opening a website. For you, it's only one button you click or one link you click. It's only pressing one button. And you probably, with your attention, you are already looking forward to see what content will show up. But what you are triggering, what you're doing with pushing this button is that globally, more than 100 servers start to run and to see, okay, what kind of data we have around this user, in which region are we, have you more data, and then there is a whole supply chain. So there are a couple of supply side platforms who now try to sell this ad slot. And that's this kind of chain. So here's the publisher, his website get visited by a user. This causes this auction. And then you have a quite high number of supply-side platforms. These kind of supply-side platforms, again, talk to other platforms, and this chain can really be very deep. And that's really very efficient in a way that globally everybody can, let's say, be on the advertiser side and see to whom, or on the publisher side, to whom we want to sell the ad slot. But it's also coming with quite a lot, with quite a large carbon footprint. And it's also quite redundant. So there are a lot of requests, server requests, where we are now looking into it, how we can reduce it. Otherwise, the whole effectiveness and the benefits we have in digital marketing will get spoiled if we don't look deeper into it. So this is a real protocol about just one single web visit, and you see all the different players who all get activated just for one single banner which gets served. And now, as we are working together, DoubleVerify is working together with a company which specifically is looking into the measuring of the carbon footprint of the whole landscape, called Scope 3, as this notion of Scope 3, which is part of the method. So they took this name, Scope 3, to say we take care about all the third parties. From them, you can get the most precise data around the carbon footprint if it comes to internet usage. And every bubble you see here is a publisher. And if the bubble is a larger bubble, it means that this publisher got visited very often. If it's a smaller bubble, it's a website probably with not so much reach. And here you see the attention as we are working with companies like iSquare, which help us to measure the attention in just the moment an advertise get being placed on a website, to have an understanding, okay, how was the exposure, where was the ad placed, how was the user engagement. It's more like 50 data points who go into a model. So we have an understanding of a contact with an advertisement on each of these publisher websites. And of course, what advertisers want to see is large bubbles with a lot of attention. And now you have a new dimension that you also need to see, okay, but how was the emission? If there were so many platforms involved to get this ad served, then and brand advertisers nowadays understand if we only look on the effectiveness and the attention we can get for our ads, but we don't care about the emissions, this will come back like a boomerang because they need to report on the emissions. And of course, it's not only the regulation, which is now changing fastly, also consumers will then take notice that, okay, advertisement was probably great, but also Apple needs to deliver in their reports that they actually can show progress. Only doing marketing is the one thing. The other thing is that it also needs to become clear by reporting on it. So what we are now trying to, where we try to get a progress is to combining data around the attention which can be created by an advertising campaign, and in the same moment also to have an understanding how much resources were needed, how much server resources were needed to serve these impressions. So I'm coming to the end of this little detour around meaningful attention, bringing also in the dimension of the carbon footprint. So attention is great, but please also be aware about the resources you take from somebody or from the earth to get the attention. And we have now benchmarks for every single ad placement. And Germany, compared to other markets, here the carbon emission per placement of an ad are quite high. So why is it? Yeah, we have more and more renewable energies in our system, energy system, but still we also are using more coal and gas energy than other countries. If you compare that to France, they have nuclear power. So that is a disadvantage, so we even need to work harder on this. Yeah, so I would like to finish that every organization now needs somehow to see that they, in the first place, need to see where they can eliminate any kind of emission, if it's somehow a way how to eliminate it, if you can filter it, if you have historical data, it's not working, get rid of all this waste. The second thing is then, is there any way to reduce your emissions? The third is, are there better alternatives? And in the end, there will always be some portion which is hard to be eliminated or reduced to zero. So there will be a portion of carbon emissions which needs then to be compensated. But here, be as serious as you can be to have really the numbers about how much emission you are causing, and then find a way how you can compensate for it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Philipp. Very interesting. Different perspective. Any questions from the audience?
I must say I'm a bit a bit shocked, I must say, because I wasn't aware of this problem at all. And I'm wondering, do you think it will mean that programmatic advertising will stop because people can't afford it anymore to compensate for it?
It's a very good question and fair question. And I think in a way. I hope also that the ad tech firms who are running programmatic advertising are also a bit shocked now, learning more about data which is also was not around 2 years before. But in a sense, as often, they are causing a lot of carbon emissions by having created a global market for every single ad slot. So it can be interesting for a global advertiser to do advertising somewhere in this region, and there is another advertiser, and only because it's in the region, he also wants to have this ad slot, and they are competing, and that's good for the publisher. So there are a lot of demand coming in for different reasons, so nothing false with that. Now, seeing that this whole machinery is also not efficient in how it uses energies, how can that be solved? Just by shutting off programmatic advertising? I don't think so. I think programmatic advertising is also the only hope how to solve it, because we are working now with agencies and advertisers in identifying every single ad slot or web pages which are causing much higher carbon emissions than others and so on. But it's not a great manual work. You can't ask people to go through line items and say, okay, let's take this kind of publisher out of the media plan. So that again needs to be somehow done in a more efficient way. And market signals are often the most fastest way. So if a publisher or the sell side see, okay, something happened. So we had great business, but now business goes down. And we also get the information why this happens and that advertisers become much more pickier. Then I think then that can also become part of a updated kind of programmatic advertising. That's my hope.
Thank you. One more last question maybe, then we'll move to lunch and then you can talk to Philipp directly. There was at the side. Maybe you want to
Yeah, your chart, Philip, which is a brilliant chart about attention versus emission. Is that actual data? Is that do you genuinely see a negative correlation on the whole? So more attention generally, formats that use less emissions, or was that just a hypothetical?
A very good question. So we just recently saw that there are some qualities which are correlating with lower carbon footprints. And it's not so easy to say why. So, but there are some causalities which might help to interpret it. So ad clutter, for example, if there is a website which is so much keen only to deliver ads, but on the content side, it doesn't really is in any regard interesting for users. They are buying traffic somewhere else. So they are coming from search and they're coming from other websites, bringing the users on the website. So already that is another step, more server activities just somehow to try to get the users on this website, and then there's ad clutters, and users are gone within seconds. So they can sell their ad slots nowadays, but hopefully by looking into their carbon footprint and to see that also the quality is not working for the advertiser nor for the user, there are also other quality aspects to focus on. Those can help to reduce also the carbon emissions.
I'm sorry, we don't have any more time for
we will have lunch also. I'm
Yeah.
still around if you have more questions.
Freddy, then Philipp will be here. So thanks a lot, Philipp, for this interesting talk and topic as well. We'll have a present for you.
Oh.